Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen Robinson, and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, Jessica Embree, who is an international bestseller, a StoryBrand guide, and marketing specialist. She specializes in helping businesses grow all over North America with clear and impactful marketing campaigns. Please welcome Jessica Embree to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Arlen.
Yes, no problem. And thank you for joining us. Yes, I'm really excited to talk to you today. We're going to be diving deep about with regards to story branding and how that relates to creating a story for your e-commerce business to improve your conversions, because that's really what it's all about. It's a kind of a age-old saying. They say it's been kicked around the marketing circles where they say stories sell, not facts and figures. And so you're going to definitely enlighten us on, crafting stories and how you can have the proper messaging to resonate with customers and prospective customers. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and specifically how you got into what you're doing today?
Absolutely. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I had my first business when I was 10 years old, door-to-door blueberry salesman. No one could say no to a 10-year-old selling blueberries. So very profitable business. Not e-commerce, could change that up today in this day and age. So I've always been an entrepreneur, and I really loved marketing and evoking emotions so people would buy products. I always was stuck on that. I loved marketing and what it was able to do. So I was always fascinated with it. And when I started my journey into marketing, going to school for it, and then starting with Tulip Media Group, I just dove into not only messaging, but design too, because design matters on how people feel and how people convert. And we came across StoryBrand, and StoryBrand really resonated with us because we were having a problem ourselves with our marketing. Our marketing wasn't speaking to the core customer. It wasn't providing them with the solutions right up front. So we really dived into StoryBrand in 2019, and we flipped everything, and our conversions soared overnight. Our cost of acquisition went down by 10x. Like, we saw a huge impact on this, and I love doing marketing. I love helping other people grow, and it just excites me at the end of the day.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's a great testimony to show that, you guys dove into this and you've been successful with it ever since. So that's a great, really starting point for any of our listeners and our viewers that aren't familiar with StoryBrand. What exactly is StoryBrand?
So the term StoryBrand comes from Donald Miller, Building a StoryBrand, the book. And it's a 7-part framework, which really outlines and helps you clarify your messaging and to create clear and concise messaging so you convert faster at the end of the day. So in this framework, you have the character. So very similar to a buyer's persona. You're outlining what the problem is. You're outlining who the guide is. So you're showing credibility of your brand. You're showcasing a plan. We're very simple human beings. We need to know what's next in the customer journey. We need to have a call to action. Sometimes we miss out on this very key aspect of our marketing. We forget to say, this is what you need to do next. We need to outline success, and we need to outline failure too, because unfortunately, we also need to agitate that pain of why people need to buy from us and what that solution is that you're providing to them.
Right, definitely. Yeah, it's, the main thing I think with it. So I am familiar with StoryBrand and Donald Miller as well. Myself and my business partner have kind of gone through that to help us improve our messaging. So yeah, his whole concept has really resonated globally with a lot of different businesses, and I know he's helped a lot. And really comes down to getting those core essentials of that story and getting that right messaging, out there. Now, as far as e-commerce businesses are concerned, how really does an e-commerce business use this StoryBrand, this concept, to come up with the right messaging that's really going to help them connect with their, with more customers and really ultimately just getting an increase in sales? That's really the bottom line.
Yeah. So for e-commerce businesses, especially, this is your storefront. You don't have a physical store. So you need to make an impression and have that messaging that's going to convert. So it's really important that your customer journey is clear on your storefront. And for e-commerce, we often see them do the regular homepage, but then they have categories on what they're selling and they have their products within those categories. Because again, we want to make sure the customer journey is easy. So for example, if you're, I don't know, hair care products, maybe your categories are hair, curly hair, straight hair, what have you. And then your products are under those each category. So that way it's, again, easy for me to define where I need to go. I have curly hair, if anybody can't see me, where we need to go, and then purchase that product under there. So it's really important, especially for e-commerce, because you need to tell that story of where you're going and have that messaging be very clear on how they can buy from you.
Right, definitely. Yeah. And oftentimes, especially with e-commerce businesses, me working here with OSI Affiliate Software for so long, as you can imagine, I've seen 1,000,001 different websites and 1,000,001 different e-commerce businesses. And one of the things also that really kind of ties into that story is really just that initial messaging that people get on that homepage, because that's really like you said, that's the storefront. That's, your virtual storefront, as if somebody is walking down the street, maybe they're driving their car, they come up and they stop, they get to your front door, your store, which is essentially your website's homepage. And, these days with everybody's attention span being, over the years, they get shorter and shorter. You've got to capture people's attention and, really just a split second, because otherwise they're going to bounce off and, go on to the next site. And so, over the years, like I said, I've been in this business a long time. So I've seen a lot of businesses make a mistake where, that messaging of exactly what they do, who the product is for, I've seen so many businesses that fail here where it's undecipherable. You just look at it and you're like, okay, what is it that they're selling? You may have a rough idea, but you're kind of, racking your brain. You're like, all right, hold on, wait a second. They may have some type of header, text or title information, but it may not be clear. And then that's where you lose so many people, where people can't understand exactly what you do from looking at that homepage for just a couple seconds. Then that's where you kind of lose them. So that's really important, I think.
I'm so glad you said that. We call that the grunt test. So you have 3 to 4 seconds to get their attention, and you have to meet 3 criteria. You have to tell them what you do, how you help them survive and thrive, and what that call to action is. Because again, you only have 3 to 5 seconds to make that impression. So that's really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. And because like I said, it's because these days, especially, I guess you could say kind of post-COVID, post-pandemic, prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, of course, there was always a lot of e-commerce businesses, more and more e-commerce businesses popping up every day. The pandemic really accelerated that. So it's like if you had some competitors prior to the pandemic, you probably have quite a few more now after it, because, when things were locked down and businesses had no choice but to sell online, everybody started getting their acts together and started focusing on their e-commerce presence. If they didn't have an e-commerce store, they got one, or if they had one that maybe was a little lackluster, they improved it. And so you got a lot of competition. So if somebody gets to your site, and like you said, that grunt test, 3 to 5 seconds, if you lose them, they got a ton of other options to just jump onto, and not even think about it, and won't look back. Actually, won't even go back to your site.
Yeah, and one thing I always keep in mind with messaging and doing your messaging is we all run into this. It's called the curse of knowledge. You've been in your industry for so long, you start to use jargon that people don't understand.
Right,
So it's
right.
something to be mindful, especially if you're in tech.
Mhm.
Um, I know we work with a lot of insurance agencies at Tulip Media Group, and they say commercial business all the time, commercial insurance all the time, and
Mhm.
I'm like, people don't know what that is, but they do
Yeah.
realize what business insurance is. So sometimes it's just changing or tweaking messaging like that to make sure you're not falling for that curse of knowledge and making sure your messaging is very clear.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And I myself have fallen victim to that. I'm a techie, and so a lot of times when I'm working with our team and we're coming up with different messaging, maybe for a new product feature that we're about to launch, yeah, I fall victim where I have a tendency to put that tech jargon out there and not make the wording plain for just anyone. It's hard to get around that sometimes because
It is.
you're so involved in it, and to you it's those tech terms and that detailed specific terminology is really second nature to you. It's just like your language, but you have to remember that's not everyone's language. Not everyone is going to understand what it is you're talking about, and you have to definitely, I guess you could say, kind of dumb it down almost. Really make it plain for everyone. To really totally understand what you do. Now, we're kind of talking about the messaging. I like to focus on that homepage, which is really kind of that gateway to get in there. You have the 3 to 5 seconds. I know another big thing, which is something that I think these days some businesses kind of always struggle with, and you can kind of let me know where this kind of goes into the mix, is those calls to action, because there's a number of things you can do these days as far as getting people into your mailing list, offering people a promotion, holiday special, new product line. There's a million things that you can kind of put out there to be a call to action for people to, take action, whether you want them to, highlight a new item, get them right to it, give them a discount, get them on your mailing list. Well, all these different options, how do you know really what to do and what's the proper call to action, specifically on the homepage, if it is appropriate there?
My typical rule of thumb is don't make it ambiguous call to action. So learn more and read more. Stay away from that. That just
Okay.
sounds like more work on the visitor's part.
Yeah.
And what is the purpose, or where do you want them to go next? So if I, as a marketing company, I want them to book a call with me, that's what my call to action would say. If you're an back to the curly hair, I'm just going to buy now. If you're a dog food manufacturer, you can either purchase online or you can go into the store. So what is the purpose that you want them to do? What next step do you want them to do, and make that into your call to action?
I see. So it's really just all about that next step, whatever it is.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also your call to action could be a success. So if you're a real estate agent, sell my home.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of the next steps, or what does success look like at the end of the day?
I see. So you really have to define that before putting out the calls to action, because you can't just throw stuff out there and just kind of expect it to resonate with a lot of people. So yeah, I understand that. You have to establish what success looks like. Now, let's say after we've kind of gotten past that initial point, let's say you've crafted a clear, concise kind of explanation of what you do on the homepage. You got the particular call to action. Maybe you lead somebody to maybe a video. Maybe it's a video explaining their product, or maybe even a testimonial, something like that. One of the things that I see more and more these days with businesses, and we're kind of getting back into the story part of it, is with businesses these days, people, I think, really want to actually try to resonate with the brand, the owner of the brand, the founders. What are their core principles? Who are they? Where do they come from? How did this whole brand start? A lot of people are really concerned about, even, the values of even the owners. Are they an ethical company? Are the products sourced, using sustainable resources? All of those things, I think, are kind of now in the forefront of people's minds more than ever before. And so, because, I know when I go to different new e-commerce sites, a lot of times, second place I'll go to is maybe just their about page. I want to figure out, okay, who's this owner? How did they come up with this? I'm really always curious about that. And so different owners that I've talked to will tell me that, oh yeah, I just came up with this. There's no really story behind it per se. How do you really come up with that story that's really going to engage these prospective customers and really pull them in a way so that, they kind of really got to get to know you and how you came up with everything?
There is definitely a place for that about section, or that credibility section is what we kind of call it. Building that authority, showcasing your values, showcasing your footprint or your environment stance. It's all about where in the customer journey you want them to see that. So it is very important depending on what industry you're in. And when it comes time to craft that, you just have to keep in mind why people are coming to your site at the end of the day. So what is that core problem, and what solution are you providing? What emotions are you trying to enact on these people? So have that interweaved into that story, and really just be authentic. I think that's a lot of things that we're looking for when it comes to marketing, is authenticity and transparency.
Right.
People value that. So having that in your messaging is very important.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the transparency is right. So I think the takeaway with that is, yeah, if you think your story is not interesting enough, you don't want to make up anything. That's the main thing. You want to be honest. You want to be transparent. And whatever it is, however you came up with this, whoever is behind the inner workings of the company and the brand, put that out there, because regardless, it's true, and you're going to be honest of how you got to where you are, how your products were really conceived, or your services were conceived. And so rather than making up some story, I totally agree. It's best to just be honest and be authentic, because I think these days people can kind of with everything that's available online, all of the data is out there, I think people could easily find out if you really weren't, being honest or truthful, and then kind of making things up. And I think that could really come back to bite you if you come off as, telling some untruths and not really being legitimate about your story.
Yeah.
Now, with regards to the brand's, messaging, within their various pages or different sections of the site, what are some kind of rules of thumb as far as getting people along that journey where you're, building the trust, you're educating them, and you're then kind of leading them to where they can purchase? You're leading them to the right product, the right service, without, kind of just being so forceful with it. What are some typical rules of thumb to get people down that proper sales funnel, so that they can, at the end of the day, purchase from you?
So we talked about a few. It was avoid the ambiguous call to action, right at a 6th to 8th grade level. So keep that cursive knowledge out of the mix. The other one is make sure that your customer journey isn't too long. So we've seen this on some sites before, that you click to book a call, but then it takes you to another page, and then you go to another page, and then finally you book that call. The customer is ready to book that call when they click that button. Just get them to that next landing page. So don't make the customer journey too long, and always remember, you're not the hero of the story. Your customer is. So make sure you're showcasing what that problem is. Pet food. I know we've mentioned that a few times randomly. Maybe your pet is having coat issues with their coat. Make sure you're agitating that problem and providing that solution to them, which is the pet food that helps them with the shiny coat. So make sure you always keep that in mind, that you're not the hero. We definitely want you to show credibility in your messaging, but not at the first glance.
Gotcha. I got you. Yeah. So it's very important, definitely, as far as making sure they can get to where they need to go quickly, and you're not, giving them too many steps. Like you said, if it's booking a call, or if you have a straight direct purchase capability in your site, well, you definitely want to review your checkout process and make sure that's pretty efficient. And is there any steps in that way that can be improved? I know a lot of times these days, as far as e-commerce product sites, a lot of times people are using a lot of these off the shelf builders, which is, it's kind of good and bad. The good thing is many of these tools that you can use are these shopping cart platforms. Let's say the Shopify's of the world, or the Squarespace, the Wix. A lot of these, their teams behind the scenes are cognizant of the fact that they've got to make the checkout process as streamlined, as smooth as possible. You do have some flexibility to alter some of that, but in a certain extent, a lot of that is fixed, and you're kind of have to deal with what they've come up with as far as the functionality of going through the checkout, what's displayed. But whatever they make available, you do want to make sure that it's streamlined, and that there's no questions when people are going through the process, so that they can easily get there. And then after the purchase, then that's kind of a whole nother thing. You have to be concerned about the emails that they're getting, the notification emails, when they get them, how they get them. So that whole customer journey, it really never ends, actually.
It's a cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And so, speaking to that, once you do get those customers in your actual database, they are customers, and of course, you want to foster that relationship. What are some other things that you can do to, earn their trust again? Get if you have other items, what are some ways to do that without being so overly salesy, I guess you could say?
Yeah, so we call them nurture campaigns after they've become a client, because you want to keep that retention. You want them to buy from you again. So send them out a monthly email or bi-weekly email, just depending on what industry you're in, and making sure you're bringing value to the table. That say they bought your product from you, you want to make sure you're still providing that value. So those tips, those tricks. For example, we have a garden center who has an e-commerce on their site. They send out gardening tips every month. That's interesting to their core customer. And they send out coupons too. So coupons are a very big thing you probably see in e-commerce a lot. And that gets people to return as customers.
Yeah, definitely. So that nurture campaign is important. And it can also be done not only via email, but these days through SMS text messaging also, which is really huge. I'm on a few companies' text message campaign lists, and they're very effective, because these days there's not too many people, at least that I know, that don't have a smartphone, that don't have the capability to get a text message, and usually their smartphone is within arm's reach, so you're right there, you're getting them wherever they are. So that's another way to nurture their campaign. If but you have to be mindful of the fact that what you're sending, is it appropriate to send that via text, or is it going to be more bothersome, to the end customer? So you do have to think about it and come up with a strategy and figure out what makes sense, what medium to send out that nurture campaign, whether it's text, whether it's email, or what have you, or even via social media. Get your clients, social media contact information, and then communicate with them that way as well.
Yep. And socials aren't the only one. There, you can also retarget your customers through Google Ads too.
Right.
So if you set up your tracking tags correctly, you can retarget that audience so that they're kind of staying that brand awareness. So anytime they do type in a keyword that has to do with your product, you're still popping up in their mind.
Yeah, exactly. Those are very, very important, very powerful these days, because once you retarget them, like you said, through the Google Ads campaign, they're going to start seeing your ad, your banner, your graphic all over wherever they go. And then, it's all about top of mind. If they keep seeing you enough, you're going to be top of mind for them, and then they'll remember when they need to, purchase something from you with regards to what it is that you do. Well, Jessica, as we get ready to wrap things up, I wanted to see if you could highlight or show us some examples of some e-commerce businesses that you're familiar with, that you either worked with or that you're familiar with in general, that have, gone through and created a story brand. They've gone through the process, or, just have a unique story and have been able to really increase their conversions by, following these methods.
So yeah, there's a few that Koha Pet Foods is one that I'm familiar with from Don's book, Marketing Made Simple. I think I used them a couple times during this podcast. The other one was the gardening center. We have a client who has a gardening center. They have the physical store, but they have the online store, and they went through the framework and they've seen amazing results, not only in store, but online too, using Google Ads.
Okay.
Other email marketing campaigns too. And we've had some tech companies in the past too that sell software, and they've seen some great results with the StoryBrand framework.
Okay, great. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always good to see testimonials. We know that this all of this stuff works, and it's doable. Yeah, you just have to take the time and then follow these methods for crafting proper messaging, proper story, and then get it out there. And all of the big companies do this. All of the big companies, e-commerce brands, have marketing teams where they're looking at everything, and you can definitely learn a lot from some of the larger brands as well, and see, well, how do they communicate with their end customers? What journey do you go through as a customer for some of these larger brands, and see, is there anything that you can kind of glean from them and use for your own purposes there? Sure.
Yeah. And I believe Koha, the pet food company, had like 10x their overall conversions just using StoryBrand.
Mm-hmm.
And gardening center, we're helping them with a variety of different marketing strategies, email, PPC, and StoryBrand. And even in the off months, which we are right now for gardening,
Right.
they are still seeing a steady stream of revenue, which they're used to those peaks and valleys. But our hope is, with the nurture campaigns that we're doing and the PPC and the strong messaging we have on their site, is yes, they're still going to have those peaks and valleys, but not as hard as they usually do.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it definitely works for sure. Like you said, even for a seasonal business, when you start seeing that uptick, you'll be able to see that, throughout the year, which that's how it definitely works. Well, Jessica, this has been awesome. It's been great talking to you. I've definitely learned a lot, and it's good to be able to kind of, in my mind, this was kind of a refresher, because I did go through the whole StoryBrand course, and kind of thought about some things that we, as our business, need to actually implement. And so I'm going to kind of get back, look back at our notes and get with our team and see what we need to do to help tweak things. Because as you know, this is definitely an ever-going process. You're always got to make tweaks to your whole strategy.
Absolutely.
But lastly, before we do let you go, I always like our guests to share one closing fun fact about themselves. So if there's one closing fun fact that you think our listeners and viewers would be interested to know, it'd be great to know.
I'm a speed reader. I consume books. I just love reading. I do it on my time off, and
Okay.
I read 2 to 3 books a day.
Wow. Okay.
I really like books.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I guess, my fun fact of the day.
Wow, that's awesome. So 2 to 3 books a day. Yeah, that's a lot more than I could read. Yeah, I got a book a while back on kind of how to improve, or how to kind of be a speed reader. I'll have to revisit that, because of the methods that this one gentleman, I forgot the author that he was going through, was kind of going through a method that really anybody could do. With the speed reading, was that just something that you just kind of naturally have had even when you were a child? You're able to read quickly?
My family's a huge advocates for reading. So I was reading at a young age, and it's what I love to do. It's after full days of work, after the kids have gone to bed, like, we just like to sit down and have a little bit of me time. So yeah, it is self-taught, but I love reading business books and nonfiction books. So yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, Jessica. I really appreciate that. Lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind letting our listeners and viewers know the best way for them to reach you if they want to reach out and pick your brain any more about story branding and how to increase their conversions using these methods.
Absolutely. So you can reach me at tm.media/double sales. That is my book landing page. It's for double sales, zero salespeople. That's the one we're bestsellers for. And on there, you can get a free chapter. You can buy the book, or if you want to pick my brain, like Arlen just said, you can book a free call with me and we can talk about anything and everything e-commerce.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely encourage all our listeners to reach out to you and take a look at what you have to offer for sure. And thank you, Jessica, for joining us today on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.